Hopeville was a small, peaceful village. It was a place where everyone knew everyone else. The village was nestled between two tall hills, with green fields all around. The sun would rise early every morning, shining on the colorful houses that dotted the village. Farmers worked in the fields, growing food to feed their families and neighbors. It was a simple life, but the people of Hopeville were happy. Ben lived with his parents, David and Anna, in a small, cozy home. They were farmers, just like most of the families in Hopeville. Their house was modest, but Ben loved it. It had a warm, inviting kitchen where his mother cooked meals every day, and a small garden where Ben helped plant vegetables. Their home was surrounded by fields of crops, and there was a barn for the animals. Ben had been helping his parents on the farm since he was a little boy. Every day, he would wake up early to feed the chickens, milk the cows, and make sure everything on the farm was in order. He loved taking care of the animals and the plants. He found peace in the rhythm of farm life, the steady work of planting, watering, and harvesting. It was hard work, but Ben was proud of it. Yet, despite the comfort of his life, Ben was different from most of the children in Hopeville. While they were content to play and enjoy their childhood, Ben had big dreams. He wanted to do more than just help his parents. He wanted to make their farm the best in the village. He often thought about how he could improve the farm, make it bigger, and even grow crops and raise animals that people would admire. One quiet evening, as Ben sat on a rock near the edge of the farm, he gazed out at the fields. The setting sun bathed everything in a soft, golden light. He thought to himself, "This is a good place, but I can make it better. I can do more." His dream was big, bigger than what his parents could see. They were content with their small farm, but Ben wanted something more. He believed that with hard work and patience, his little farm could become something special. Ben's dream was something he kept to himself. He didn't talk about it much, because he knew his parents didn't share the same vision. To them, the farm was enough. They had food, a home, and enough to live a good life. But Ben wasn't satisfied with that. Every night, as he lay in bed, he imagined what the farm could be. He saw rows of vibrant vegetables, tomatoes, carrots, and potatoes, all growing in perfect rows. He pictured healthy animals, strong cows, happy chickens, and pigs that were well fed and cared for. Ben saw a farm that would not just feed his family, but also provide for everyone in Hopeville. He dreamed of people coming from other villages to see his farm, to learn how to grow their own crops and raise their own animals. "I will make it happen," Ben would tell himself quietly. "I'll work hard, and it will come true." One day, he talked to his father about it. "Dad," Ben asked, What if we could make the farm even bigger? What if we could grow more vegetables and even have better animals? David smiled, but his expression was gentle. Ben, the farm is enough. You know that. It's good work, and it feeds us. What more do we need? But Ben could not let go of the idea. He spent hours reading books about farming, learning new methods, and imagining how he could improve the land. He asked other farmers in the village for advice, hoping to gather as much knowledge as he could. While his parents were content with their way of life, Ben was always thinking of new ways to improve things. He even started to experiment with different farming techniques. His father was often skeptical, but Ben's passion only grew stronger. Ben's favorite part of the day was when he was with the animals. The farm was full of chickens, cows, pigs, and sheep, and Ben made sure each one was well cared for. He loved feeding the chickens, cleaning their coop, and watching the cows graze in the fields. He had a special bond with each animal. One of his favorite things to do was walk through the garden. It was a small garden, but it was full of promise. He planted tomatoes, carrots, and beans, always taking care to water them and protect them from pests. Ben had a unique way with the plants. He would talk to them softly as he worked, as if they were his friends. "You're doing great today, my little tomato plant," he'd say, as he gently tugged at the leaves. "Keep going. You're getting stronger." Ben's bond with nature was something special. He never saw it as just work. To him, the farm was alive. The plants were like his friends, and the animals were his companions. He enjoyed being out there, working with his hands, and watching things grow. His parents, though they didn't fully understand his dream, admired how much Ben cared about the farm. Anna would often say, "Ben, you have a good heart. You love this land more than anyone else I know." Ben would smile and nod. "I do, Mom. I really do." One summer afternoon, a new family moved into Hopeville. They were the Martins. The Martins were different from the other farmers in the village. They were rich, with a large piece of land and a beautiful house. They had the best tools, the best animals, and many workers. The Martins were known across the region for their farming success. They had a big barn, expensive equipment, and workers who helped run the farm. People admired them, and everyone said they were the best farmers in the area. The Martins grew vegetables that were bigger and more colorful than anything anyone in Hopeville had ever seen. Ben watched them from a distance. He was fascinated by their success, but he also felt a sense of competition. To Ben, the Martins' farm was everything he wanted his farm to be. But he knew that to achieve that, he would have to work harder than anyone else. He had always believed that hard work was the key to success. The Martins may have had more money and better tools, but Ben knew that if he worked hard enough, he could make his farm just as good. He could make his farm thrive, too. The next few weeks were the hardest Ben had ever worked. He woke up early every morning, even before the sun rose, and worked late into the night. His hands became calloused from all the hard work. He planted more vegetables, fixed fences, and made sure the animals were well taken care of. Despite the long hours and the exhaustion, Ben never gave up. He had a goal, and he believed in it. He spent hours studying new farming techniques, hoping to learn something that would give him an edge. "I can do this," he would say to himself. "I just have to keep going." At first, his parents didn't notice much. They were busy with their own work, and they didn't understand why Ben was working so much. But as the weeks passed, they began to see how hard Ben was pushing himself. "Ben, you're working too much," his father said one evening, as he saw his son still out in the field, even as the stars started to appear in the sky. "You need rest. It's good to work hard, but you also need to take care of yourself." But Ben didn't listen. He was determined. The Martins' farm may have been bigger, but he was going to show that with dedication and love for the land, his farm could be just as successful. One season, a powerful storm hit Hopeville. It had been a hot summer, and the crops had been growing well, but the storm came suddenly. The winds howled through the village, and the rain fell in heavy sheets, as if the sky itself was angry. The storm lasted for hours, and when it finally passed, the damage was clear. Ben's farm had suffered greatly. The tomatoes and carrots he had worked so hard to grow were ruined. The barn roof had been torn off, and the fences had fallen. His animals, scared and disoriented by the storm, were running around the farm, unsure of where to go. Ben stood in the middle of the mess, feeling defeated. He had put so much work into the farm, and now it seemed like all his efforts had been washed away in the rain. He walked through the mud, looking at the damage. His heart sank. It felt like the storm had taken everything from him. "I can't do it," he whispered to himself. Maybe this dream was too big after all. But even as he felt overwhelmed, something inside him refused to give up. He looked around and thought of his parents, who depended on the farm, and of his dream, which still burned in his heart. This setback might be hard, but it wasn't the end. "I won't give up," Ben said, his voice firm. "I'll rebuild. I'll make it better." He went to his parents, who were just as disheartened by the storm's damage. His father, David, patted him on the shoulder. "We'll get through this, Ben. We've had bad days before, and we've always come back stronger. But remember, It's not about how many times you fall. It's about how many times you get back up. With those words, Ben knew what he had to do. He spent the next few days working tirelessly to fix the farm. He repaired the barn, rebuilt the fences, and planted new crops. It wasn't easy, but Ben's determination kept him going. He didn't have much, but he had his hands, his heart, and his dream. As the weeks went by, Ben's farm began to show signs of recovery. Slowly, the vegetables started to grow again, and the animals became healthier. But Ben knew that he could do better. He wanted to learn from the best, and that meant visiting the Martins' farm. The Martins had a much bigger farm than Ben's, with more resources and workers. Their crops always looked perfect, and their animals were well fed and strong. Ben admired the Martins' success and wanted to learn their secrets. One morning, after finishing his chores, Ben decided to visit the Martins. He walked to their farm, a little nervous, but determined to learn. When he arrived, Mrs. Martin was out in the garden, picking some ripe tomatoes. She smiled when she saw Ben. "Well, if it isn't young Ben, how's your farm doing?" "It's getting better, Mrs. Martin," Ben said, wiping the sweat from his brow. "But I want to learn how you grow such healthy crops. How do you do it?" Mrs. Martin looked at Ben thoughtfully. She had heard of his hard work, and she admired his dedication. "Come with me," she said. "I'll show you a few things." She took Ben around the farm, showing him the different crops they grew, the irrigation system they used, and how they rotated the fields to keep the soil healthy. Ben watched closely, taking mental notes of everything she showed him. Mrs. Martin even explained how they took care of their animals, feeding them the right food and making sure they had plenty of space to roam. Ben asked questions and listened intently, eager to learn. He also saw how the Martins treated their workers with respect, making sure they were happy and well taken care of. Ben realized that it wasn't just about the tools or the land. It was about how you treated the people and animals that worked with you. By the end of the day, Ben felt like he had learned so much. Mrs. Martin gave him some seeds for a new variety of tomatoes that she thought would do well in Hopeville's climate. "These should grow well on your farm," she said with a kind smile. "You've got the passion, Ben. You just need the right knowledge." Ben thanked her and walked back to his farm, feeling inspired. He was ready to put what he had learned into practice. He spent the next few days improving his farm, using the techniques he had learned from Mrs. Martin. The garden flourished, and the animals grew stronger. Ben could see the changes already. Now, from this point, the story will be continued in the next part.